Hi, I'm Karla Schafer, designer for Auntie's Beads, and I'll be demonstrating how to make a circular brick stitch ring. The products used in this video are as follows. I'm going to be using a Swarovski 8mm round, Swarovski 4mm bicone, a Miyuki 11/0 seed bead, and I'll be using a big eye needle, but you may also use an English 10 or 12 needle. I'm going to be using fireline, nipper tool, and a ring mandrel. First thing you'll need to do is thread your needle with the fireline, and I'm using just a little bit over a yard of fireline. And the first thing we're going to do is run our needle through our 8mm 8mm round, and I'm going to leave a good long tail. So I ran it through, and then simply what I'm going to do is run it through again the same direction I came in, and I'm going to make a thread around this, a loop of thread around my 8mm bicone. So I've got a fire line on one side. I'm going to do the same thing again. Again, I'm just going to take it in the opposite end here. So now we have two threads on the side of the 8mm round. And this is where we're going to build the framework for the circular brick stitch. We're going to add our seed beads to either side of this round. And I happen to know that the 11/0 seed bead and this 8mm round will take 7 beads on each side. First thing we're going to do is thread a seed bead on our needle. You're going to take your needle and run it up underneath the fire line. And then pull. So you have your seed bead sitting right here on top. And then you're going to run your needle back through the seed bead. You're going to pick up the second seed bead, and again you're just going to run your needle underneath. If you're using a bigger round, you'll just have to kind of gauge how many seed beads you can fit. You don't want to put too many on there where it crowds it, and then it'll make your fringe pucker. And you just continue this until you get 7 around the one side. You can tighten your tension by pulling the thread from the bottom and the needle at the same time, which you may need to do every once in a while. Again, just slip the seed bead on and run the needle back up through the bottom of it. And this seed bead's messed up. I'm going to remove that one. Just want to bring it to the, see my tension's really loose here, so I'm going to tighten it up as soon as I get my needle back through this one. And it'll make it easier to work with. I want to make sure it stacks in the right place. So I'm just going to give it a tug. See how it's tightened back up? I've got 4 on here, so I'm going to do 3 more for this side. And 1 more for this side. Okay. Again, I'm going to tighten up the tension. I'm going to run my needle from the seed bead back through the middle of the round. And then we'll start this side with the 7 seed beads as we did on this one. I have got 6 of my seed beads on the second side here, so I'm just going to put in the last one, and I'll show you what we do from here. You want to be sure and take it from the bottom, not the top. Take it from the bottom, not the top. Run your needle back through that seed bead. Sometimes they get a little squirrely. All right, let me tighten it up. There we go. Okay. Now I've got the last one on. What I want to do now is run my needle back through the 8mm round. In fact, I'm going to run it through that bead on the first side, back through the middle, and it'll there, and it'll bring all of our little beads together here. Now we've got this perfect little framework around the 8mm, and the thing we're going to do now is start embellishing our fringe and adding our bicones. Now that we have the 8mm round circled with the seed beads, we are going to now add our fringe, and we're going to do one seed bead, one bicone, and one seed bead. And bring it down to our work, and I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to run it. I'm going to skip the seed bead, the last one threaded. I'm going to run my needle through the bicone, through the seed bead on the bottom, then the seed bead in the frame around the 8mm. And this is what's going to create our fringe. So then what we do is run our needle up through the second bead. And again, when it gets loose like this, just pull the tail and it'll come back. This time we're going to simply string on a bicone and then a seed bead. And this is going to be our pattern for the round. Again, I'm just going to take my needle through the bicone, back through the seed bead on the 8mm, and tighten it. And again, I'm going to go up through the next seed bead from the bottom. This time we're going to go with the seed bead, bicone, seed bead. I'm just going to repeat this pattern all the way around. Again, run your needle through the bicone, through the seed bead, and then the seed bead around the 8mm. Complete this for the half of the bead, and then we'll start the other half. Now that I have almost all the fringe done on this one side, I am back at this top bead, which is the 7th seed bead in that half, and I'm going to run my needle back through the top of that bead and back through the middle of the 8mm round, so you come out this other end. I just wanted you to see that this, and then we're going to how to get to the other side, and then we're going to start this fringe process on the other side. And again, we've started here with the seed bead, a bicone, and a seed bead. So again, you would start here, coming up through the top bead from the bottom rather, and you would just add a bicone and a seed bead and start your fringe for the other side using that same repetitive pattern. And then once you get this side done, we will be able to weave our band for the ring. Now that you have something that resembles a little sun or a sunburst, you've got your fringe all around your 8mm round, we're going to work on our band, and we're also going to do a brick stitch for the band. And the fun part is really just starting this. So what I'm going to do is I'm kind of going to peel back the fringe, and I want to run my needle up through one of these border seed beads. You're just going to have to kind of fish it through there. There we go. And try not to get any of the seed beads up in the fringe. There we go. Just want the base. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make a 2 bead brick stitch band. And then I've strung on 2 seed beads. And I'm just going to go back into seed bead next to the one I just brought my needle up through. And again, you may have to kind of peel it back a little bit. Pull it through. And this is going to start our band. So we have 2 beads side by side. And I'm going to go back up through that first seed bead I just came out of. Like I said, this is really just the tricky part. Again, you don't want in that second seed bead there. There we go. All right. Okay, and then I'm going to go through these 2 that I strung on, and then we're going to start building. You won't have to work so hard anymore. So when you string on 2 more seed beads, go through the opposite of that first row we put on till they start stacking, and then you're going to go back through those. And you're going to continue this pattern until you get the band, the measurement that you need, and you can use your ring mandrel to check what size. And we're just going to keep doing this little pattern here. And when it gets loose like that, again, just kind of pull them together. And you reposition your piece however you want to make it work best for you. You start to see it start resembling the little stitch here. Now that we've got this the fringe completely done, we're going to work on our band. What we're going to do is we're going to bring our thread up through, and I've already done this, I'm sorry. We're going to bring our thread up through one of these base beads here. And to get it in there, you may have to kind of peel it back a little bit and put it up through there. But now that I've got it running through here, I'm going to do a 2 bead brick stitch for the band. So I've strung 2 seed beads on, and I'm going to go down into the seed bead next to the one I came out of. And then I'm going to come up through that same one I started. And again, you may have to kind of peel it back here. And then I'm going to go up into the seed bead that's right above it, the one that we had just strung on. Make sure I get it off of there. And then down the next one that we had strung. And then back through this one that we just strung on. And tighten all this up. Now, there we go. We're going to string 2 more on, and we're going to do this. Run through the top of that one. Come up underneath. And this is what we're going to do. You may use your ring mandrel to determine your size that you want, or your finger, but if you're making it for someone else in a certain size, you might need to use that. We're just going to continue this little pattern until we get a good length, and always just go back down through that second one there. We're just going to build on this and come back up. You could also do this band with a ladder stitch, but I think the brick stitch has a really nice look to it. And if you can't get it through that bead at the same time, just pull it through and then go through it. Remember, you always want to go from the bottom. And then continue this until you reach the size that you desire, and then we'll connect it to the other side. And start seeing the pattern come through here. Alright, now I have a good portion of the band done here. I'm going to add a few more beads, and then I'm going to go and connect it to the other side, and then we'll have this completed. So I'm just going to add a couple of more seed beads to this. And again, you can measure this against your finger or against a ring mandrel. Make sure that you have the right size. Basically, the way to connect it is just how we started. Just want to come over to directly to the other side of the work, and we're just going to find our bead that we want to go through here, and we're going to go in from the top of it this time. So again, I'm going to bend this back, the fringe back, run my needle through this bead, through the seed bead, might be nice to have a pair of pliers handy to help you pull that through sometimes, because after it's had so many passes it gets a little tight. So now I've got it through this one seed bead. I'm going to run it through the bottom of this next one next to it. Again, you can just kind of peel it back and work it through, and then we're going to run it back through the band, those two beads, last beads that we threaded on, and run some half hitch knots. To tie it off. And back up over the top. And run it back through my work here. A couple of beads through. And a half hitch knot. Again, you're just going to run your needle up under a thread. Create a loop, run your needle back through it. And I'd probably do this a couple of times, just run it through. And then trim your tail and the original tail, and then this one, and then you've completed your ring.